And welcome back. Many thanks for keeping it KTN Business. My name is Abi Agina. And before we took that break, we said we want to get into the conversation around what's happening in the petroleum sector. And we're joined by none other than the Director General of the Energy Regulatory Commission, Engineer Joseph Nganga. Welcome again to our studios.
Pleasure.
And Happy New Year, since we didn't meet.
Happy New Year too. This is my first interview.
We are honored to have you this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, Engineer, a lot has been happening in the petroleum industry. And one of the big questions, come next week, we know you'll be announcing the new pump prices for the month of January. What should Kenyans expect into this month?
Generally, as mentioned earlier, the shilling has been stable at around 102 shillings to the dollar. And internationally, the oil business is conducted in US dollars. So when that is stable, then of course, generally the price will be stable. And equally, the cost of petroleum products in the international market has stabilized. Currently, about 37 US dollars to the barrel. So generally, we should expect no surprises in terms of the pricing for next week. Yeah.
By that you mean, are we likely to see them being revised downwards or a slight maintenance of the current price?
If Ali is correct in his predictions on the US dollar weakness a bit and we have the shilling going down below 100, then of course that is taken into account.
Yeah.
Because we take the average of 3 banks in calculating the foreign exchange. So if that is positive downwards, then it will have an impact on the pricing. Yes.
We do hope that will happen. Of course, the other issue around the petroleum industry now is double inspections being conducted by KEBS as well as, if I'm not wrong, even ERC. Of course, this stems from the issues we've been having of adulterated fuel. What are your thoughts around this and how will it be implemented really?
I think, Abe, I need to clarify that there's no duplication. KEBS will be undertaking the external inspections that relate to products before they come into the country.
Yes.
Our concern here is that even if you have a product come over that is to spec, it's possible that adulteration can happen in the country. And that has been happening. For instance, in dumping of export products and also in taking advantage of the differential in kerosene taxation vis-a-vis diesel or super petrol. So we still have to continue with that because you can still have a good quality product come in to the country and yet other issues come in. And this is what we monitor. We have a consultant who undertakes that on our behalf, SGS, while KEBS will be keen, of course, to ensure that the products coming in meet the specs and especially the Kenyan standards. And that on petroleum is not so bad, but on LPG, we certainly have a major concern because there could be products coming in through our boundaries, especially through our neighboring Tanzania. And in some cases, we've had, for instance, LPG that is not staged. That is a dangerous product. And of course, also we are concerned about the container. This is a pressure vessel, a cylinder, and it has to be treated with caution. And over time, usually it would wear, it will have corrosion. So it requires to be validated every 8 years. And if you don't monitor that and the product, for instance, if it's not staged and there's a leakage in a home, then you may not be able to detect the leakage. And it's possible that maybe you can start a fire, light a match, and you can have disastrous consequences. So when you look at the inspection, both of them cater for different roles, and they are necessary to ensure that the products are safe for utilization.
Engineer, how severe is this issue around adulteration as well as checks around LPGs?
Adulteration and the dumping of export products, every 3 months or so, we actually publish a list of shame, name and shame, of facilities that we have inspected in the country. In the last one, we had about 3,000 samples undertaken throughout the country. And the compliance level is quite good, I must say, probably up to 98%. So it's only a very small proportion of stations that would have that problem. But it doesn't help, even if it's one retail outlet that affects a consumer, because it can have a major problem. We hear cases of somebody may be traveling and you fuel in a station and you drive 100 meters and your car stalls. So this has consequences, even if it's one case. So we try to ensure as much as possible we can be able to oversight that. Yes.
And from this list of shame, are there any prosecutions that have happened?
Yes, in fact, we seal the premises. That's the immediate action to ensure that no consumer can be able to get that product once it's identified as having adulteration or some other problem. So they will have to go pay the KRA, and the penalties are severe. Some of them range to $1 million, and it's only after they pay the penalties that the facility can be opened. And of course, they have to be able to ensure that the product that is affected is treated to be able to be usable, and they have to do that in compliance with KEBS and other parties to ensure that ultimately the product meets the specs. Yes.
Of course, it being a new year, a lot of focus will be on the Commission in terms of what you intend to achieve in this financial year. Of course, we do have the energy bill up for discussion. From where you sit, how significant will this piece of legislation transform the petroleum industry?
We've been looking for more leverage to ensure that we have better oversight of the sector. And there are areas that we feel that perhaps require deterrence. If we move away from petroleum and look, for instance, at the power sector, there is a challenge in terms of vandalism of transformers, which I think you are pretty familiar with. And in some cases, you might look at them as economic crimes because they affect a very big section, maybe, of population and key industries. So we have proposed severe penalties in the bill that is before Parliament, and we've certainly had very good and positive feedback from at least the Committee on Energy and other stakeholders. We believe the energy bill, if passed in the form that it is, will be very useful in terms of enhancing the oversight capability of the Commission, and also to ensure that we deter some of these practices because they have a major impact on the economy. Yes.
Looking at the oversight capability, what other areas would this bill sort of hand you as a new mandate?
I think it will be a game changer with respect to some of the issues that bedevil the industry and some of the issues that we have requests for. For instance, I can give an example of net metering. This is where you can be able to have individuals like you and me installing solar panels in our houses, and because we are not there during the day, you can be able to generate the power and sell to the off-taker, in this case, Kenya Power. And they call it banking because you're basically putting in a bank to be using it later. So in the evening, when you come, you can be able now to ensure that if I utilize from the Kenya Power, at the end of a period, you can be able to net how much you have been able to supply as a generator and how much you have consumed as a normal consumer. And that in many countries and jurisdictions is having a very positive impact because very many people will be interested in installing the solar panels and selling and reducing the cost of their supply. So there could be issues like those that will essentially change the game with respect to how we are dealing with the industry. And they will be helpful in going forward in oversight of the industry.
And still with that piece of legislation, among other provisions, of course, we are looking at more engagement with the consumer. And from where you see it, what are some of the other key areas that are sort of standing out for you in this legal regime that we're likely to get into?
What we will do is that we have regulations that will be following up after enactment of the Act. And we already have areas that we believe can be enhanced in terms, for instance, like complaints handling. Not many people know that if, for instance, they are dissatisfied with the service provision from any provider of service or product in the industry, they can come to us to be able to raise issues. And that is an area that we would want to enhance so that we can be able to ensure that people are satisfied with the service they get from their providers. And if not, they have recourse to come to the Commission to ensure that we can be able to assist. Because you can look, for instance, in terms of a consumer of power who probably takes that units. You may not have a negotiating power to be able to deal with a big player like Kenya Power. And usually that weakness is balanced by having a regulator who can be able to listen. And if there's a case, then you can be able to act as an intermediary with the service provider to ensure that everybody is satisfied with the level of service or product.
And Engineer, moving forward, as you get your last response, into this new year, what will be topping your list of some of the key things you want to achieve, if you are to share that with us?
I think for a regulator, one of the key things that always one has to look at is the pricing. And in this case, the cost of energy, and specifically the cost of power. That is one item that everybody looks at. And our brief is to ensure that we can be able to ensure that it's affordable and can be able to ensure that we remain as a competitive destination in terms of business. And therefore, we'll be monitoring that very closely, which you have been doing, of course. And the key issue here is to ensure that we can be able to monitor the fuel cost charge so that the pass-through to consumers goes lower than what we have now. And this can happen if you're able to have more renewable sources of energy, like wind coming in. And of course, if you can be able to have a wet year, then of course, we can be able to ensure that the pass-through is minimal. Then of course, the other element there that we adjust monthly is the foreign exchange rate fluctuation adjustment.
Correct.
And that again, if we can be able to have a stable environment with the Kenya shilling, it will be positive. And we can look forward to a stabilized tariff in terms of the pricing going forward. And the final product that is passed through is inflation. We do that every 6 months. And so far, again, it's been contained. And that is positive on the power side. On petroleum, which of course is the subject of our discussion today, we go back to the issue of basically saying that when we look at the economic development of China, predictions are that it's not going to be growing as fast as it should. That reduces demand for oil. There is the issue of Iran, that it has excess oil and it will be dumping it in the market going forward. Yes, that may be possible, but recent developments are changing that. We do not know what the geopolitics will play around with what has been cooking over the last 3 days or so between Saudi Arabia and Iran and other Gulf countries. So I think petroleum prices could still remain positive in terms of the current trend. Yes.
Many thanks, many thanks. And of course, last question is pricing of LPGs. A lot of Kenyans have been raising complaint with this particular matter, saying that ERC needs to actually crack the whip. Is it time for you to step in?
I think I need to clarify that we do not regulate the price, actual price of LPG. That is left to the market. And with reason. Of course, where there are many players, we would encourage that the players can be able to regulate themselves. And they've been trying to do that. The new energy bill, of course, provides for the fact that if need be, we can be able to regulate the price. But that will not be necessary if they can be able to have self-regulation and competition is good so that they can be able to deliver. I think what is crucial in LPG is managing the issues surrounding the quality of the product and the container, and a lot of other businesses that are illegal, and controlling the movement of the product. That is where the real challenge is occurring.
Many thanks, Joe Nganga, the Director General of the Energy Regulatory Commission, giving us interesting perspectives around some of the key aspects that they'll be looking into this new year. Of course, he's quite optimistic, saying that they will continue with surveillance, as well as trying to ensure that there is proper regulation across the industry. Many thanks.